All right, I'm here in Morehead City at Chevins Park. We moved, I was born in this area, but we moved back here several years later after having lived in other places. Moved back here in 1979. My dad was starting a church here in Morehead. And so from about 9 to about the age of 16, lived here and enjoyed this area. Back in that day, this was not a children's park. This was just a field. Back before that, decades ago, there had been a USO building on this area, on this property. This is called Chevins Park because it sits between Evans Street here and Shepherd Street. So Shepherd and Evans, they got Chevins. All right. So when we moved here in 1979, I was 9 years old, and it was in the summer. Well, that fall, that Thanksgiving, actually, we had kind of a church get together. All the church planners were here, and some people in the community, and we had some people who show up from out of town who were friends of those who were starting the church. And as is the tradition, obviously, you do a lot of eating on Thanksgiving, but also one of our traditions was we do a lot of football, not just watching it, but we used to play football on Thanksgiving a lot. And one of the fellas that was here, he had come down from Cleveland, Ohio. He was, he must have been in his, I guess, really early 20s. I don't know exactly how old he was. His name was Greg Maxson. I didn't really know him at the time. I was 9. He was, again, probably just out of high school, maybe 20, 21, somewhere in there. At any rate, he had just come down to visit, and we had our church service that morning, a Thanksgiving service. And then that afternoon, we came down here to Chevins Park to play some football. Well, he started playing, and he was still dressed in his church clothes. He had a white dress shirt on and some slacks. And I remember as we got started to play, I had changed into my play clothes, from my church clothes into my play clothes. He was still, wearing his church clothes, and I was kind of concerned about it because, my mom always said you need to change out of your good clothes to play in your play clothes. So I right there at the beginning of the game, we were just kind of throwing the ball around a little bit, and I went up to him. I said, you got your good shirt on, as if he didn't know that. And I said, you don't want to get that messed up, And I remember he looked at me, and he kind of laughed a little bit, and he said, "Man, it's just a shirt, man. We're gonna have some fun out here." And he eventually moved here to help with the church plant, and became my Sunday school teacher, my youth leader. He and his wife Sharon, huge impact in my life. Outside of my father, probably the most impacting personality in my life. And I'll always remember that first meeting we had on the football field where he said, "Man, it's just a shirt. We're going to have some fun out here." And I don't know if it hit me right then. I remember that moment thinking, wow, if I ever said that, man, my mom would be getting me off this field, And that's fine. It's neither here nor there about whether or not I should have been wearing a dress shirt. I probably shouldn't have been wearing a dress shirt had I had one on. But the point he was making, whether he tried to or not, the point he made in my life at that point was, it's just a shirt. There's some things that are more important than keeping your clothes clean. And one of those things is having a good time, but certainly having a good time in ministry and pouring into people's lives, which is what he did that day. And it impacted me as I went into ministry to realize, man, it's just a shirt, it's just a car. It's just a house. Really, it's just a job. It's just food. In other words, compared to the things that really matter, these things are it's just a shirt. And so I don't know. That's a very, very vivid memory for me, and a moment where I remember thinking, wow, there are some things that are more important than others. Now, I knew that. I'm sure my parents taught me that. I'm sure I learned that through other means as well. But I remember on that day that it kind of rocked my way of thinking about some things. And I think it set sort of a trajectory for me as well in my life. My parents were doing that. They were sacrificing things along the way in ministry that were just things in order to make the best thing happen. And but that was a conversation that I had right here, without all the fancy woodwork and playground, just a field, just a football, just a white dress shirt that did get pretty dirty that day, because all he did was play his heart out on football, but also for the Lord. So anyway, thank you, Brother Greg, for pouring into my life. And there you go, folks. Remember, it's just compared to eternity, compared to relationships, compared to what matters. All this stuff is just. All right. Have a good day.